Code of Wellness. I am Dr. Angie Gray, and I am your host today, and I am so excited to introduce to you Dr. Joseph Iannelli. He is a chiropractor and has been so for over 30 years. This is an exciting time for us. We're going to learn a lot, and the most important part of this is that you are here. So thank you for joining us. Dr. Iannelli.
Hello, thank you for having me. Well, we have an exciting topic, I see, today.
Yes, exercise.
Exercise.
We will be discussing exercise today, and that's something that we all need in our lives, right?
We do, and it's very interesting exercise. It is a very, on the surface, we might think it's a very easy subject to dive into, but I think to the contrary. I think that exercise has a lot of dynamics to it.
Okay.
And that we could speak not only about exercise for the human body, but exercise for animals too.
Nice. Okay, how about you tell us a little bit more about that? Where are you going with that?
So, I think when you look at the human being as a mammal, and something that always has struck me is, why do we need to exercise to begin with? What is it about the human condition that really says we need to move in a certain way? What is it about that? So to me, the hamster wheel is very intriguing, because when we take the hamster out of its natural environment, we put it in an aquarium, we put a hamster wheel in there, and the hamster instinctively knows to get in there and to move.
Okay.
So the hamster is out of its natural environment and needs to exercise. In its natural environment, it doesn't. We need to exercise perhaps because we are not in our natural environment.
Ooh, now that sounds intriguing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
So it's very interesting on that level, because it also says that if we can get more towards where we should be, perhaps there is less or no need for exercise. Like when we let the animals loose in their natural habitat.
Okay, okay.
It's so it's like I said, it's a very intriguing and a lot deeper subject than maybe just we're going to exercise for the health of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the health of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the chiropractic piece, because as you know, you've been doing this for 30 years.
Just a short time.
And what you may not know is how the chiropractic care that I received from you, how it changed my life, because it was more than just the adjustment, the manual adjustment of my skeleton, but it was the adjustment of my mindset that I got from you. So I am forever grateful to you, because you have tied into not just the physical, but also the mental piece. And I feel like exercise is a way to get into both of those things. So I'd like to hear your take on that.
So there are physical manifestations of emotions, right? So it's easy for us to pick out people that walk by us that might be angry or sad or happy, because that emotion has a physical manifestation. So knowing that from a basic treatment protocol, and you have somebody laying down in front of you, you want to introduce motion into them that helps them get back to more positive emotional states. So people say, well, I don't know what the connection is. How come I feel better when I get adjusted?
Mm-hmm.
How come I feel better
And I can attest to that. You
Right.
really do feel so much better after being adjusted.
Exactly, and you just said it, not just on a physical plane, but on an emotional and even a spiritual plane. Why do I feel better? So it's, if you could understand why you are attuned to being able to recognize emotions physically, then at least there's a jumping point for us to understand that there's a physical connection between the treatment that you're receiving
Okay.
and the body's emotional state, good, bad, and different.
Okay.
So chiropractic works on that level to be able to release things that you can release, and well, I don't want to say, because this is not really faking it till you make it, but there is some connotation to faking it till you're making it, in the sense that if you're sad and you physically hold yourself up and you look in the mirror and you smile at yourself, you for the beginning you fake a laugh or two. You can muster up a relief of those sadness emotions.
Wow. So it sounds like there's some toxicity that is released
Yes.
just based on smiling.
Yes.
So the manifestation of that physical act.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if it goes one way in the body, things that go one way reverse and go the other way.
Okay.
So if you are sad or angry and you have an angry or sad posture, and we could pick that up just based on body mechanics, then it would also lend true that if you correct those body mechanics, that you can get out of sadness.
Okay.
So there it is on a physical level and how everything is connected. And it goes deeper.
Okay.
It goes deeper. Because if we're made up of body, mind, and spirit, then technically all of those things have manifestations.
Okay.
Body, the mind, and the spirit, they all have physical manifestations.
So,
And they're all different levels.
so it sounds to me, we talked earlier off camera about the recipe. And it sounds like what you're putting together now is a recipe. You want
Yes.
to talk to me about that?
So the recipe is what you had mentioned too, the code. The code. The recipe is putting certain ingredients together that you need in order to optimize yourself fully. And it's not about, I tell the patients all the time, it's never about not being in a negative state. That's not what it's about. Because we need these ebbs and flows to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is not a flat line. It's literally a wave. Then,
Ups and downs of life.
yes. So and you have to have the down to have the up, and I know you've all heard this before, but it's even deeper than that. We need balance. We need to be in different states to test different systems. So what I think some of us though get into a little bit of trouble with is staying in some negative states too long without having the tools to come out.
Okay.
And
So-
that's where our treatment comes in.
In your example of the hamster instinctively knows that it has to move.
Yes.
So are you suggesting that we as humans must also instinctively begin to move and be able to talk ourselves into moving and stretching
Yes. So
and getting off of the treadmill
right.
and getting onto the wheel, huh?
Yeah.
Getting off the
Yeah.
wheel and getting onto the treadmill, whichever is appropriate.
So when you have a mammal, an animal, we're stuck on mammals from now, but this is throughout the living world, taken out of their natural environment, you have to introduce something in order to stay as healthy as they could be, to survive in a habitat that we've created for them. So it just makes us think about the habitat that we've created for ourselves. And we're also maybe just like that hamster, having to go to gyms, having to work out at home, have exercise plans and goals. It just we think about, is there a need for that because we're so contrived in our life? And because we're far, or at least not close enough to our natural way of living.
Okay.
And I don't profess to know what that way
I'm going to surmise
is.
that the general habitat for humans is not the 9-to-5 workplace. I'm going to make that.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that assertion here.
That's a great assertion.
And I would like to kind of get your feedback in terms of how our pursuit of employment.
This comes up all the time. So especially with people, where it comes up a lot with retirement jobs.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, so people they get out of their careers and they want their retirement job where it's low stress, happiness, and they don't care what they do. And that's very interesting to me because that's the exact type of job that we should be doing all the time.
All the time, right?
Happy jobs, in contact with people, jobs with various duties that sometimes we look at as demeaning, especially highly educated people that don't, but all of these jobs with all of the varied duties and contact are the best jobs because probably, from what I see, they're closest to what we navigate towards when we don't need to worry about other things from work.
So how does that manifest itself also? Because I'm thinking in the workplace, I find all of this is just so tight and so stressed all the time.
So that's a mammalian response, right? That's left. So if you're in the jungle, you're in the woods, and you think you're vulnerable or about to be attacked, you protect your neck. Your shoulders rise up to protect your neck from the attack. So we still have all of that left over from
Those days of survival.
Survival, right, and not being too far. So we're surviving in work, and so the physical manifestations of that stress are still. So even though there's not a tiger around per se, there's still that stress that's equal to that situation. So, again, periodically the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of life, we're supposed to have a little bit of that. I think where we get into trouble with certain situations, it's all the time.
So how do we relieve that?
And there comes the physical manifestations. If it goes one way, it has to go the other. So if we're riding our shoulders up, we physically have to ride our shoulders down. So I teach people in the office shoulder shrugs. So what I say is, in order to gain control over those muscles, we want you to raise up even higher. So forget what the emotion's doing to you, forget what the stress is doing to you, raising you up maybe a little bit. I want you to raise up even higher so that when you do push down all the way, you get control over it.
So good.
So it's just a shrug, but it's a shrug with purpose. So the shrugs
Shrug with purpose.
Yeah.
I love that.
In bodybuilding, we do the shrugs in order to get big trap muscles, right? But in stress reduction, the only reason you're coming up is to go down.
Gotcha.
Is to push down.
Nice.
So you look at some of these things, all right, they're just physical things. They're getting rid of muscles, but they're not really getting rid of stress. They probably are, right? Based on, remember that, we have, if it goes this way, it goes back and does that way. If there's a physical manifestation of emotion, and you could positively affect your emotion physicality.
So let me ask you this. As we're looking at exercise as part of the recipe, how much exercise do we need? Do we need a cup? Do we need a half a cup? Like, talk to me about the exercise that we need on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever.
So it's certainly about blood flow.
Okay.
But blood flow has a lot to do with the need for exercise.
Okay.
So we talk about ponds and streams in here. About I try to tell the patient and give them analogies all the time so that they easily see this stuff. I say, what would you rather drink from, a pond or a stream? A pond, a stagnant pond, or a babbling brook?
Okay.
And, you know, they're like, well, you know, we've got the rocks in the water, it's cool water coming down from the mountain, full of the stream, the
And
babbling
it's
brook.
emotion. Yes,
Or
it's
drink from
emotion.
the stagnant pond that has algae on top and, you know, gook and everything else. So your blood literally gets like that when we're not moving. So if we are blessed with the ability to move, you're supposed to, often.
Okay.
You know, and there comes the code and the recipe, because people are certainly different in that regard. Certain people do very well with a particular time and a recipe where they're going to do a walk in the morning and some exercise at night. Some people are more organic and they can feel when they need it.
Okay.
And I try to gauge that person and help them gauge themselves.
Okay.
So, but movement and blood flow is very important. You know, in the medical field, there's this big push for the blood thinners and figuring out ways to keep viscosity higher so that you don't clot, you don't have strokes, and our heart stays pumping. So we're all moving in that same direction. You know, they prefer to help us out more with medicine and pharmacology, and then, you know, some of us more holistic practitioners recognize the same thing. We want movement and pure water, good rich nutrient food to keep our blood flowing.
Okay, so for our viewers today, our listeners, what would you suggest as a means to get incidental exercise in? Because I think when we label it exercise, it becomes really hard.
That's great. That's
If we can,
great question.
if we can exercise without calling it exercise, it might be a little more palatable.
Great question. So we all do something called ADLs. When you analyze the average person does certain things day in, day out. And then, well, not me, I'm very, you know, I'm all over the place. No, if we put a camera and watch you, your days are very, very similar.
Okay.
They are. And they're called ADLs, your activities of your daily life. So what I try to incorporate with my patients are that you could use your ADLs. And you could use your ADLs as blood flow mechanisms, as ways to get stronger, as balance exercises. For example, and this is the analogy we give in the office too about weightlifters, bodybuilders, that they would never go up to a weight and pick it up willy-nilly and then try to lift heavy weights,
Okay.
right? They would go up to that weight and pre-tighten their muscles and then grab the weight, and they do this instinctively. They're not really taught that. They know though that if they pre-tighten and they pick the weight up, they're a lot stronger.
Okay.
So I tell the patients, let's turn sitting and standing into an exercise. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, instead of doing what a lot of us do, which is letting momentum help us up,
Okay.
or the opposite, just plopping down in your chair.
Okay.
And every time you stand up,
I
every
know
time.
something about that.
Yeah, we all do it. Plopping on couches at
Right.
the end of the day. Boom! But every time you get up and you sit down, you pre-tighten. You've just turned an ADL, something that you do every day, into an exercise.
That is awesome.
And you could do that with countless ADLs.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we have Dr. Iannelli here. Dr. Iannelli here so that we can look at ways to incorporate exercise into our daily living, ADLs. So as we are looking at those activities of daily life, we can incorporate exercise, and we don't have to call it exercise. It doesn't feel like
It's not as scary.
exercise. And we can still get the same results, Dr. Iannelli?
Yeah, yes, well, you probably could get better results depending on how many ADLs you take upon, you know. I mean, your life is full
Okay.
of opportunity.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, you look at some of the, what we would consider sometimes the healthiest physiques and the best physiques. Some, you know, a lot of dancers fall into that category. And the movement of life, you know, the more you move and the more you keep that blood flowing, the healthier that you are. And you mentioned toxicity too. Remember the pond and stream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so detox is a big thing right now. And blood flow has a lot to do with how clean you are on the inside.
Okay. So what are some ideas that you have along the lines of detoxifying? What are some things that
So the
our
basic,
viewers can,
yeah, the basic one is water.
okay?
And we can get, you know, deep into that subject.
That's a whole topic by
Whole
itself,
topic.
right?
Water is a whole topic, yeah.
Okay.
Because, you know, there's you know, purified versus natural versus pH water. There's a, you know, so you probably could tell by the way I'm speaking that I'm going to go for the natural state water. And you know, it is as
So-
close as we can.
I think what I'm gathering is the natural state is a huge part of what you do in terms of our chiropractic care.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Correct.
That's all natural
Yes.
and organic,
Yeah.
okay? So all of these pieces are fitting together, they're becoming that recipe
Yeah.
that you mentioned earlier, okay?
A habitat environment too.
Yes, yes.
And what we're supposed to be doing for each other too.
Okay, oh my.
You know?
So it sounds to me like we have a lot of topics that we are going to be discussing in greater length at another time. We'll be taking a deeper dive because you've opened the door to just a library of topics here that we can really discuss and get into. But what I want to do today is give our listeners, our viewers, an opportunity to ask any questions that they have. We'll take 2 or 3 questions that might be
Sure.
helpful to us. And I see we have a viewer here with us. Your question, sir.
Yes, I do have a question. The question is, I've incorporated walking. And in terms of walking, what's a good amount of walking to start with to get optimum gain out of it?
So we look at something called muscle recruitment. So you have a bunch of muscles in the human body, and you will do better if most of them are working while you're doing your full body activity, like walking. So a lot of practitioners use, and I use the same thing, this 20-minute mark. And some of the evidence that we have is based on thermography cameras. So if you look at the human body and you look at the temperature of the muscles of the human body, you want to get confirmation that you're using all of your muscles, because you'll get the most out of your body when all of them or many of them are fired. So I would tell you at least 20 minutes, and 20 minutes, if you hit that mark, you're probably red head to toe. So that means that if you first start off walking and I'm following you around with one of these thermography cameras, you'd probably see quite a few blue zones. And then as you further got into the walk, you would turn, another one would go red, another one would go red. And then we're getting full body exercise. That's why full body exercises are so good, rather than just doing the bicep curls or, we talk about dancing, swimming, walking.
Okay. So can you speak to the benefits of walking? Is that something that we should take over going to the gym, or do we need both, or?
So if you are able to, and you were blessed with the ability to walk, I believe that should be your foundation.
Okay, so build your exercise plan around
Around
your
walking. Yeah.
Okay.
I think walks, especially if you could do walks in a more natural environment, the more natural that you could get, the better. I typically tell people to try to stay off sidewalks. I know it's nearly impossible in some of our big cities, but sidewalks have no give. There's not a good match between walking on a sidewalk and walking in nature. But get to the parks. If your only choice is between sidewalks and blacktop's a little bit better as long as it's safe.
Okay.
But walking, I think, should be your foundation.
Okay.
And you build around that. You find out again if there was the recipe, right? What else you need.
Right, absolutely. So in looking at this overall conversation, what's 3 small adjustments that our viewers can take away? What 3 small practices could they incorporate into their exercise, whether it be the ADL or the walking or the hydration, whatever, those things that we have discussed today, as well as some that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to mention yet. What are 3 small adjustments?
The walking should be your foundation.
Okay.
I believe that. I think like the callers said, the 3 20-minute walks a week is suffice to start off.
Okay.
You know, if I have to pick a second rung, it would be the ADLs.
Okay.
The pre-contraction when you sit, and the pre-contraction when you stand. Contracting the muscles to stand up, contracting them to sit down. And I guess the third thing would be water.
Okay.
Yeah, which is
So this sounds like a recipe for growth. And
exactly.
we can build upon that and really do some positive things in our physical body.
Yes.
We spoke about our emotional piece and our mental health.
Yes.
And what I really liked was you brought our attention to animals. So when we look at the nature piece, that can all be incorporated. So we have a lot to talk about. We'll get to it in further episodes. So I'm looking forward to it. This has been phenomenal. Dr. Joe, I want you to look right into the camera and let people know how they can get in touch with you.
So we are in Turnersville, New Jersey, that very lovely setting on the Black Horse Pike. You could call us at 856-227-3480. We have a website, iannelliwellness.com. We have a very friendly family practice that we talk about these things day in and day out.
Nice.
30 years.
Nice. And I can attest to that. Dr. Iannelli had me to, as a patient, some 10 years ago, I began to see him during the time that I was pregnant with my daughter. And I tell you, the family orientation of this business, and it is a business, but it's also a family. So I say a business, but it's really, it's a wellness institution, a place where you can come and find wellness in every area and aspect of your life.
Yeah, we are not a typical stuffy office, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about the adjustment. It's about the recipe. And that's what I love so much about Dr. Joe, because he addresses our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, and teaches us very quietly to make small adjustments. And those adjustments are what I want you to think about for our next topic. Our next topic will be hydration. So we're looking forward to having you all join us again next time. And next time our conversation will be about hydration. Thank you so much, Dr. Iannelli. You did a fabulous job. I learned so much.
This is so much fun.
This is awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. And I love you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.